Well. I hope you can all hear me okay. I've had a few tech issues. Phil, can you hear me? Terry?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, all good.
Let's be real. That was the worst possible start to a new year after the best calendar year on record. I mean, I fucking regret quoting all those records, guys. Honestly, I do. 2024, what a year. What a way to kick off the new one. I did a New Year's special with the brilliant Punked Up Warlord, the brilliant Pam, the brilliant Johnny Logue. I wonder this. And I said, we'll see how many folk are zen or how many folk call this a dead rubber if the worst were to happen. And I even quoted the potential score of 3-0. Not trying to be all fucking Mystic Meg. I know how people feel now. This is what I'm worried about. This is what I'm worried against. There's no such thing as freebies. Do I believe our manager went into the game thinking there's complacency? Of course not. But boy, oh boy, there's questions to be answered. We're going to get through them all tonight, but do all that good stuff first. Hit the like button, hit the share, hit subscribe, buy some hair, all that crap. Members, $1.99 a month. There's an option to do it. Tasty Pish treats, $1.99 a month. Piesports.com. Right. Phil, I want to ask you where did it all go wrong first? There's at no point you could blueprint that because everything was wrong today. Every single aspect. Give me one take just so we can get a conversation going, but generally everything went wrong today.
Okay, so where did it all go wrong? I would say halftime was a crucial point because we've seen some underwhelming first halves this season, right? It's not outside the realms of possibility. Just go back a few weeks to the cup final, the League Cup final. We're 1-0 down at halftime in that game, and we came out second half and we looked a bit better and we got ourselves into the lead and whatnot. And to be fair, at halftime, I was fully expecting the opposite of what we saw in the cup final, where Trusty got hooked off inexplicably. And I remember at the time the commentary team on Premier Sports said it wasn't for an injury.
We'll get back to that. We'll get back to that.
They said it was tactical, and Liam Scales was obviously spooked today. He was absolutely dreadful, and you can see he's having a bad game. So you'd think a manager of Brendan Rodgers' ilk would identify that quite easily. Oh, we can all see it. Get him out of that environment, get Trusty on at halftime, and that's a start. But we didn't do that. I said the first 10 minutes of the second half, we seemed to be a bit more sensible on the ball, but then it just completely fell apart after that. And yeah, we got what we deserved. But for me, we were talking about where did it all go wrong today. I would say halftime was a key point in the day. And yeah, that's what I would start with. Terry,
you often do the lineup analysis better than me. I'm gonna go back to. I mean, I've always said the get-go. I think that the criticism that Trustees had on many platforms and across social media for Celtic fans, I've always thought was way OTT. My honest belief is, I think Scales is held to a lower standard and therefore exceeds expectations consistently. Trustee, for some bizarre reason, £6 million seems a lot of money to Celtic fans still. Well done, Celtic Board, on that, by the way, because that makes us all expect Baresi coming in. If that's the ball-playing defender who played today, give the guy the ball who doesn't know how to be the ball-playing defender, because it was apparent early bells that Maldini himself, what was it happening? Are you agreeing with Phil? Because I am. Half-time, if you're going to make the big call in the League Cup final and kind of make you look like a dick by taking you off, it should have been role reversal today and Trusty comes on at half-time, if not earlier.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. If that was the tactical change that was made in the cup final, then the reverse should have happened today. Now, it's not going to be about pick on Liam Scales, because absolutely nobody, from the manager to the goalkeeper to the centre forward, comes out of that with any credit today. But come back to the lineup, I think Scales was always going to start this game, given that he replaced Trusty in the cup final and he played the two games in between. And we've praised him to the end of the earth when he's deserved it. he was shocking today, absolutely shocking. He's culpable for the first goal, as are two other players. He's knocking the ball straight out of play on a regular basis. He's finding blue jerseys. I kind of was looking at if he was a boxer, the coach should have been throwing the towel in. Do you know what I mean? He should have been bringing him off for the guy's own safety, because he was drowning. He was absolutely drowning, but he wasn't alone. And see if you were allowed to make 11 subs or more, I think we'd have used every single one of them. I know,
but you say that though, Terry. Terry, it's great to say that. He didn't make any at half time. He made zero.
No, he didn't make any. And that's
so
why
11 would be a fine thing.
Yeah, but the manager comes out of today with no credit either, because he's put on a pedestal, quite rightly, and he's regarded as someone with, I think the term we use is in-game management, and he's been praised at Ibrox previously and on many, many occasions about his in-game management. And today, his in-game management was quite similar to other performances last season, where the arms were folded or the hands were in the pockets, things weren't going right, and he didn't seem to be in the mood.
Yep.
And do anything about it. That game today, forget who it was against, that performance was very similar to one that we had last year. I think it was Hibs, and I described it as a disgusting performance, and that's what that was today. Absolutely disgusting. Every single player, manager, everyone.
A lot to go through there, Phil, for what Terry said. First and foremost, Terry, you've never sounded better, though. I love that husky voice, mate. Honestly, you're giving me vibes, mate. Honestly, I actually want to agree with everything you say tonight just because of that voice. Secondly, I'll send you some money for central heating because you look cold.
Oh, I am cold. I'm cold.
Banter aside,
the heating's been on most of the day. I've been at my work.
As long as you're okay, mate. As long as you're all right.
I'm just freezing. I'm freezing.
No, but I want to go, Phil, all jokes aside, to the real points Terry's making, and there's so many valid ones he's making. Now, when it comes to Rodgers, one of the things I've agreed with the judge has been he removes emotion from decisions. Everything is clinical, cynical, if need be, based on what he's watching. Bullshit today. Because he didn't flip, as we've discussed, the trusty Scales thing, the way he did in the League Cup final. That tells you he has an emotional connection with Scales that he thought that would upset him too much to do so. I am convinced that's the reason. Kyogo today, they put up a stat, 7 touches. I think they said the lowest in Celtic's history or something like that by the time the time the game was. And Celtic, they'll keep persevering. Either gets 20 minutes, looks like a donkey. He looks like a donkey all the time for a reason. We are letting it. And by the way, you know how much praise I give this manager, and you know how much praise I've given the team. But we look at the game in isolation, and then you start backing up other wee factors that you go, I don't get why you've done that. 60 minutes it took, Phil. Then it becomes a triple sub. I don't get how you can wait 15 minutes in the second half to then go that drastic to do a triple sub. The evidence was there after half an hour. Not half time, half an hour. Okay. And then again you go, yeah, I've been then sentimental because you want to get into half time because it's a wee bit insulting to take a player off. I don't give a shit about that. But that's what we did. Oh, no, we didn't. We got to half time, still did fuck all, and that I cannot believe is the Brendan Rodgers I've been praising all season.
Aye, a triple sub always, you're talking about like take a player off in the first half always looks a bit, bad, but I think 3 subs at the one time. I know we've got the whole 5 sub rule, but it's very rare that you see a manager bring on 3 at the one time. It's usually broken up. So when it's 3, it's a bit of a. I mean, I can remember years ago Tony Mowbray doing stuff like that, bringing on 3 subs once, and that was when we were allowed 3 subs to come on. It does kind of look like you're just sort of throwing something against a wall and hoping it sticks. Another sub as well, and another player that you're talking about, the emotional attachments. Once again, Bernardo gets sacrificed in the middle of the park as the first midfielder to go off. I mean, don't get me wrong, Bernardo was the spectacular today. Nobody was really spectacular today. But once again, Rio Hatate, after another turbulent performance, shall we say, again, it's Bernardo that gets sacrificed first. We saw it in the cup final as well, when we didn't even have Luke McCown as an option to bring off the bench. We were actually depleted in terms of number of midfielders. And Hatate played the entire game, and it's like, that's another one to put up there with the Kyogo stuff and with Scales, where it's like, he's got a bit of a blind spot here. So we can all see that Hatate is all over the place right now. Yes, when he is on it, he's absolutely fantastic, dynamite player, but the problem is, he's very rarely on it at the moment. And you're talking about Brendan Rodgers, and rightfully so, he can take emotion out of the game, and he can be ruthless and stuff like that, but it feels like he's got a real blind spot. I mean, is it just a case of, right now, that's just all he's got to work with?
More than one blind spot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was a few blind spots out there today. But that was one that got me, because when they midfielders coming, I think I said in the Bhoycie Bus chat at half time, we were talking about Hatate off for Engels on. I think I said in reply to Johnny Logue, I would have McCown on before Engels right now. So when I saw McCown getting warmed up and ready to come on, I thought, okay, that's all right. But then it was Bernardo that got sacrificed. And it's like,
remember, Engels hasn't started because of a bug.
Yeah.
See, if you've got a bug, you can't start.
And now he's thrown on. Yep.
Don't play him, period. End of, Terry. For me, when I seen the news that Engels was out, I thought either there's a sports scientist involved here, a PE teacher, or he's generally got a bug. And if he's got a bug, you don't play. End of. If I've got a hangover, we don't do P.M.P. It's the same fucking thing. I don't come on for the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, and if he's got a bug, he shouldn't be around the rest of the players in the squad. I think
unless he's got the same COVID sort of direction team that Rangers had. But
Sutton made a point just around the half-hour mark that at that point we were getting bullied, and you then look to the bench and who actually could come on and stop you from getting bullied, and you're probably looking at Ida, McCowan, possibly Trusty, and that's your real options. But for us not to make any change till the 60th minute it's just completely baffling. I mean, that game was
is it stubbornness, Terry?
Only going one direction. Well, I think so. I think it's...
Is it the first time I've seen? I feel like he was stubborn today, and I felt that plenty of times the previous manager, as you know. And we've discussed, I thought today there was a stubbornness, and I almost plan A doesn't work. We do plan A again. And that annoys me, because that's not the Brendan Rodgers that got the records we discussed on the last P.M.P, Terry, in 2024.
I'm quite similar to Phil in that when we got through to halftime and still only a deficit of a goal, I did think, right, he's going to read the riot act here at halftime. We're going to come out and you're going to see a marked difference and at the start of the second half. And as much as we thought we'd equalised, there wasn't really any difference. And even after making the subs, there was still no difference.
We conceded straight away. Within 30 seconds. We did a triple sub and we conceded the second.
Yeah.
It was a tough afternoon, Phil, to try and work out. I know a lot of people will be saying, like, oh, we've seen this coming. I like the fact Rodgers peacocked his slumping form. But I stood by that on New Year's Eve. I thought, if this is a slumping form, go fuck yourself. I thought the management today that he showed, I thought was more on the opposite of what I've always complimented him for, is I thought he was emotionally, I thought he was personal. I thought he was, I know better. Rather than just watching it with his, watch we're accustomed to. We always go back to that Edward goal. Remember we went down to 10 men at Ibrox and Edward scores to make it 3-2. You went, no one's seen that. And if you're emotionally invested in the game, you go, protect the 2-2. He went, fuck that. Like, but he knew. He's seen the weaknesses, the chinks in their armour to do that. Today, I felt he knew he made mistakes. We all did. We all knew he made mistakes from the get-go. And he did not want to make the changes rather than count on them fixing themselves and then almost maybe egotistical. So it looked like, see, told you. But realistically, the finger or the foot had to be put down, the finger had to be pushed on the button, the changes had to be made quicker, and by the time they were, the game, I felt, had long left Celtic. Long left Celtic. But going back to the lineup, Greg Taylor, honestly, I know Liam gets like a segment basically now in the Bhoycie Bus talking about him. Let me tell you one thing. Two throw-ins. Fucking throw-ins, Greg. He hovers. He lets everyone assemble into formations and then throws a hospital throw-in when he's basically on the counter like that's that long you've got left. And we lost possession twice. And both times led to Rangers attacks. Greg Taylor. Hook him. Don't start him. He looks more part of your system, Rogers. I keep saying it.
Yep.
Let's not go with him. Let's then look at Scales. Scales, hospital pass. And Rio Hatate in midfield has done what he's consistently been doing of late, is trying things I'm sure you're capable of, Rio, that I'm not. But nobody else in the building's reading it. Nobody's in the room's reading it. So the other good footballers, who I'm sure are 10 million times ahead of me in terms of reading a good pass, they're going, what the fuck was that, mate? Like, it's a great ball into nothing. Then we get to Nicholas Kuhn on the right. And I guarantee you I can tell you what happened with him. Opening 60 seconds. Watch back the game. Open 60 seconds. Laying a marker. It's an old school thing that happened to him.
Yeah.
And he was laid a marker. By the way, it's a foul. Not picked up on. He wanted out. Right? It put him off. And I get that. These are key environments. And one of the other things, Phil, and it's hilarious that you actually tweeted it, Daizen Maeda's biggest weapon is James Tavernier in these games. Him being out the team was a benefit for them, big time. He'll go in terms of touches. I've already went on, but go through that. What I'm trying to rant about right now, if you possibly can.
Okay, we'll start with the first player that you mentioned, Greg Taylor. I mean, I've been doing so many shows now with Liam on Friday nights. I think I'm now very much in the same camp as him. I've always been of the opinion, Taylor, he's all right. He'll do a job, but we need players that are better than just do a job. And even at that now, he's struggling to do a job. I think you've said before that it feels like Brendan Rodgers has basically worked with Taylor. Compromised. That's it. Yeah, and he's allowed him now come inside a wee bit more like he used to do under Ange. But yeah, he's just something's very, very off. I thought at the start of the season when we had Valier playing in Maeda on the left hand side, it seemed to be a bit more of an attacking threat there. So I feel like Valier it's so weird how he just seems to have dropped out of the plans. It's ever since the Aberdeen semi-final, he was quite consistent for a wee while there. Then he's just been in and out the team now. But I think if Taylor isn't going to stay, and is looking very likely, I think you start phasing them out now. You start phasing if Valier is a plan going forward, if we are looking to keep him, you need to start playing this guy more regularly. Is it a sign that maybe Brendan knows I'm not going to have Valier next season? Has he made his mind up on him, watched him in training every day? These are things that we don't know.
If Dinamo Zagreb is Greg Taylor's plan, then I think we learn all we need to know about what level this guy's at. One of the things, Terry, is we are going to focus on individuals. We're not blaming individuals on their own for what happened today, but it's important to focus on individuals' mistakes. Who was glaringly obvious to you today in that first half in particular display, even though we conceded more in the second? I thought the first half was dismal. I mean, dismal. Out in that 11, what was it that highlighted to you who was so in the wrong movie?
It's Scales and Hatate. But I do
Scales for me, big time.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've made my notes, and the amount of times I've wrote Scales gives the ball away, Scales knocks it out of play, Scales and Hatate were the two, but Johnson wasn't.
Terry, see on Scales, just before we jump about, see on Scales, Rangers wanted him to have the ball. Now, if my memory serves me right, it was only 2 weeks ago, we were told Austin Trusty was taken off because Scales comes out with the ball better. Well, Rangers laughed at that and they went, oh, please tell me that's the truth. Tell me they think he's the ball playing one. Because they let it, mate, they wanted him to roam. They were like, go on, try. One of the cross-field balls he plays in that first half, I mean, it's so bad. And never a pass on in a million years that some people are questioning midfield on it. I'm like, he's trying to do a diagonal across the ground 25 yards to neighbours. That's not on any midfield. I think Rangers licked their lips at the thought of, if this is the theory, which I think was projected in the media as well, Scales now ahead of Trusty and was subbed on second half. What does he? Martin Scales, if he has no options to do. Yeah, if I have no options, what do? I do 25-yard cross-ball diagonals along the deck. Don't give it to the other team.
Just because you've got no options doesn't mean you have to give it to the other team. Do you know what I mean? There's plenty of times players don't have options. They look up. You don't just pass it straight to the other side. That's what you don't do. And I think we need to as well. And as much as I don't want to do this, I think you do need to give Rangers some credit in terms of they done a job on us today. They were well prepared. They did have a game plan. That game plan was, it was born from the cup final. So they had a plan in the cup final to stifle McGregor, and they continued with that because that worked in the cup final. But they then built on top of that. And as you say, part of that plan was let Scales have the ball, let him come out with it, because he's not going to do us damage.
He's a ball playing defender. Come on.
He's not going to do us damage. So you've got to give them a bit of credit. As much as we were terrible, they were up for it. They were well prepared. They looked like a team from very early in that game that were going to make sure that they got the points. And I think you've got to give them credit where credit's due. I don't want us to sit here and just make it all about how poor Celtic were, because that was as good a Rangers performance as there's been against us in some time.
Terry's got a good point there, Phil. Terry's got a good point there, because I think as much as they didn't lift the trophy in the League Cup final, they'd seen a way around it. And I tell you who, and I'm not trying to be big Nostradamus face. I can't have bought that. Carry on. However, I told you Club Bruges sussed our plan. They sussed it. I got abuse. I don't get abuse. Need to get a bit of abuse. See on Twitter, the pelters I got for saying the word sussed, which made complete sense to me. I went, they've read the room. They prepared very well for how we play. I think Big Clement, also Belgian, read that game, took a blueprint from it, a blue nose print from it, and I tried to apply it in the cup final, where we shocked them with our instant second half opening 10-minute, 15-minute cameo, which was absolutely blew them away, but only got to 2-1. End up 3-3-all, right? They've just carried the same thing into this game. I'll tell you why they carry the same thing. Because they knew we would carry the exact same fucking thing. Brendan, I watched his presser. He got me encouraged that we go to attack. We attack off the ball. Celtic was scared to do anything on the ball. Celtic was scared to even have... Yilmaz had more shots than fucking Celtic. These are facts. So, how come I'm looking at 60-40% to Celtic? At the same time, Yilmaz had 6 shots and Celtic did 4. And we were 60-40 possession. Trust me, the formula we used was predictable. And again, I don't want to be as if I could ever be I could be a manager. Of course I could. Be brilliant at it. I write. I'll probably put myself on there. Right, I'm an idiot. But I kept saying on the New Year's Eve special, if they do what they did do, high pressers, put under pressure, dink it, keep dinking it, keep fucking dinking it over, and make their defenders turn round and put the sub goalie into a state of confusion, and you like 3 guys with electric pace, give them questions to answer. Nah. Do you know what? With plan A doesn't work, Phil.
Try plan A better.
Honestly, drives me nuts, mate. That's Postecoglou FC, and Rodgers is better than that.
Is it any coincidence that the one time we did try to dink the ball over the defence, we did score a goal, albeit it was disallowed for offside, and it was. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say
glad you said that, though.
But I said that to my dad when I was watching it. Well, that shows you just one little chance like that, and we can catch them out flat-footed. One little dinked ball from Bernardo, boom, in, score. Okay, VAR ruled out, fair enough. But we go again, we try that again. We just didn't after that. Rangers forced us into mistakes today as well. Terry's right to give them compliments for that. They did. And you're talking about, Philip come on, looked at a blueprint, essentially what Bruce did, and he learned from that. Why didn't Brendan Rodgers see the warning signs in the cup final and think, I might try and change this up because they're going to do the same thing again? We've seen this before. Do you know where we've seen this before, Russell? Go back to Neil Lennon in charge. Cup final, Christopher Julian scores the winner, and we lived dangerously that day. And then the next time we played them at Celtic Park, they beat us by pretty much playing the same sort of aggressive way. And it's like, we've seen this. I know it's a different manager, different regime, but it's like, we can learn from these things, and it's like you'd think if Philip come on can look at that and adapt, then surely Brendan Rodgers must have not been naive to walk into this game today and think, be fine, we'll just keep doing what we're doing, and not take a wee bit of a warning sign. We did win the cup in the end, and it was great that we did a few weeks ago, but the little warning signs were there. So we saw it in 2019 when Neil Lennon, the big warning signs that day, to be fair, because we were abysmal on that day. But yeah, surely God, you think that Brendan would have saw that. But yeah, other than one little dinked ball over the top, which was the right thing to do, we didn't look to go and expose that anymore today.
Why is Liam Kelly not had a save to make until the 5th minute of stoppage time in the first half? Most of that first half, he could have been sitting on a deck chair with a cigar. The team talk before the game, at some point in that team talk, the manager must have made reference to the fact that Rangers were playing with a makeshift back four. A second choice left back, starting at right back. A midfielder playing at centre back alongside a centre back who has become a joke figure for his own support and also our support because he's been so poor up until today, albeit he then goes and scores today against us and plays really well. How come we have not tested that back four, that back five at any point in that first half until right at the very end? Straight after Rangers scored, we had a free kick.
That's been coming though, Terry, because the striker doesn't touch the ball. That's why we've not tested him. He never touches the ball in every game.
There's more than just a striker in the team. Goals come from all over the park. Efforts come.
Look at his goal touches. His touches on the ball, though, Terry. You can't deny this now. Are weighing up now. Game on game, he never touches the ball.
That's one player. We never test it. It's not Kyogo.
You said the final third.
Yeah.
He never touches the ball though in game. Game on game, he's
striker though. I'll give you two examples with two free kicks in their half. One of them was straight after they scored. It was about 15 yards inside their half on the right-hand side. Now, if you're playing against a goalkeeper who's only making his second appearance for the club, and you're playing against that back four that I've named, what do you do if you get an opportunity to throw the free kick into the box? I'll tell you what you do. You pass it back to your centre-back, who then passes it back to your goalkeeper. And we've done that twice in that first half. You have an opportunity to test an untried, inexperienced backline. That the whole team talk today should have been around putting that defence under pressure.
Do you know what I love about that, Terry?
Any opportunity to do it, you don't do it.
See, the point you just made there is so interesting because see Hadji's goal, I generally put no blame on Schmeichel, right? Whatsoever. I think it was a fantastic finish. Hadji's goal. Do you know what they did? Let's start testing him. They thought maybe he might not be as agile as he was. That's why Yilmaz has the 6 shots. Mate, they started trying to test him. Think about the amount of saves. If you cast your mind back to the game, think how many out-the-box shots they had. A wee pop against Kasper Schmeichel, a bona fide, proper English Premier League legend, a proper goalkeeper for Celtic with a fantastic record. And yet, we don't think from minute number 1 to go test the guy who's only making his second start. Think about that as an attitude. You're so right to bring it up. I'm glad you did.
And whilst in the first half, Schmeichel didn't have that many saves to make. Thinking back, there were quite a lot of shots that would have been on target that were blocked. There was the Czerny effort that was deflected that hit the bar. But in the second half, they were peppering us with shots from absolutely everywhere. So you can imagine that their manager...
They got encouragement, didn't they?
Their manager at halftime has said, what did we do in that half? He was slow to get down there. And as much as it was right in the corner, it wasn't flying, Bhoycie.
No.
I'm with you, Terry. Terry, I'm with you, mate. I mean, there's a few players to blame in the goal, but I don't think Schmeichel covers himself in glory there neither.
I thought he got down like an old man. I have to say.
Okay, tell me.
That was Joe Hart. We'd be blaming him.
No, he wouldn't have saved it either. So name me the last Celtic goalie who would have saved it.
But he wouldn't.
So tell me the last Celtic goalie who would have saved it.
Eh?
Name me the last Celtic goalkeeper who would have saved that shot. See, the fact you don't know tells you it was good enough.
It's a silly question. You can't turn around and go just pick a name.
It's not based on the keeper, mate.
Boric, Forster. I don't know. If you're asking me, I just thought Schmeichel got down slow.
No, it was an accurate shot, mate.
I'm not allowed to give a different opinion anymore.
Of course you are. I like arguing with you about it.
I didn't think there was much pace on the shot, and I was surprised to see it go in.
I've got to disagree. I thought whenever you see a strike, in my football memory, which is limited, whenever it goes through a defender's legs, which it did go through Kamika, I always think they find the target. Right, that means it must be bang on accurate. Mate, that's in the corner. I'm not putting anything on Schmeichel on that one, in my opinion. But of course, you're entitled to yours as well.
No, I just think it's the first one he's let in that I've questioned. Could he have done better? Yeah.
I disagree, but that's okay.
The third person who needs a mention on that one's Bernardo for an absolutely tame challenge. The very least he should be doing there is giving away a free kick. Yeah. If that was at the other end,
intelligence.
If you don't win the ball, you give away a free kick. You stop the
attack. Swap Bernardo for Kalmak. He gives away the free kick, didn't he? Yeah, I get that. And that's when we had the debate, like on the New Year special that we did. You go, this experience is so essential. And I think it is a situation like Terry's touching on there. We go, switch Bernardo there for Kalmak, just hypothetically. He does exactly what Terry says. He goes, just take the foul, right? But without that experience, it don't happen. Phil, talk to me about the second half, which I would call a collapse. And I think there was 2 phases of it. There was a phase at the beginning where obviously the disallowed goal you've touched on. Celtic, that was, to me, remember I always talk about Rangers clutching at straws? I felt that goal was so offside. I roared and punched the ceiling celebrating the goal. But that was me clutching at straws, mate. Desperate just for something to give me optimism. Stephen, you actually flip it. You go, why did we let 50 minutes that again? And then after it, we got worse. Tell the truth. Like, it's easy to say, it's all on Brendan, of course it is. And he does deserve the criticism. But none of these subs came on and covered themselves in glory either. Right or wrong. Who the subs were.
Yeah, I think you're actually right though when you're saying you're looking for something to cling on to. As I said earlier on, I think with that wee bit of play that we had with the offside goal, again, you're like, okay, we started the first 10 minutes, second half all right, we scored that goal. So I was the same as you, but I felt like we're working our way back into this. But yeah, after 60 minutes, it just capitulated. And I know there's maybe an argument for the 2 goals Rangers scored. One, Ida blocks it in the line, it rolls across an empty goal net, and Tropier puts it in. Second goal, Carter Vickers slides in. It bounces off him right to Danilo. There's a goal. They would have found a way to score anyway because they were knocking on the door all half, even though their 2 goals are a bit fortuitous. Vaclav Cherny hitting the post as well when he ran through, and they were going to find a way. It was like that one that hit the post. That's like a let off. You'd think that we would take encouragement from something like that, but we just didn't. We just didn't at all. And it was really tame in the end. We can't sit here and go, all the goals Rangers scored against us were fantastic. It was like watching some of the goals we concede in Europe. I always talk about the terrible goals that Celtic always seem to concede in Europe, or the bad luck we have, the self-destruction that we cause on ourselves. And all 3 goals today are all caused by that, where it's just mistakes that we've made. We've not sat back and went, fair play, man, he's pinged that in from outside the area, nothing you can do about it. We've just absolutely, self-sabotaged ourselves. In the second half, just nothing at all. And even like after going 3-0 down, there was just no fight. One of my things is if Celtic do lose a game, I can always handle it a bit better if, there's a bit of encouragement there, a bit of fight. But there's nothing. The guys just phoned it in today. And regardless of, I know that the bigger picture is we're obviously well clear at the top of the league, it's still not acceptable to win performances like that. They still need to stay on top of their game, and they've just been absolutely turned over today. And
Phil, we're 50% of the way to the same defeats that we had the whole calendar year 2024. We're already half the way there. Yeah. And
I don't think 75% of the goals that we've conceded this season.
That's a great point.
But we've conceded 6 against Rangers in a fortnight.
Very good point.
There's plenty for the manager to get
to work
on, he likes to say.
I think so. I think there's a worry for me when it comes to the system. If KT was going to be there, I thought he'd be announced today, to be honest. The window open, remember, on the first, not the second. I know it's Christmas holidays. I would have showcased it if he was definitely in the building. You showcase it. You can't play, but it's cool. He's there. They need a left back. That team needs a left back. And for me, the Ida experiment, who I thought fitted the Dembele model. I know he's a poor man's Dembele, right? I accept that. But that's a Rodgers from the time we had before. That to me strikes me as the profile of player, right? That would have fits his. I love Kyogo. Kyogo just, for whatever reason, doesn't fit Rodgers' system. That's not a criticism. In fact, just take your thoughts on that first before I fucking lose my trace of thought. I've got so many things in my mind.
Are you asking me or Phil?
I don't give a fuck either of you.
Over to you, Terry. I answered the last one, so over to you. As you can pull yourself together.
You don't need a fucking buzzer, for fuck's sake, man. Do you know what I mean? It's not fucking. It's not fucking.
We talk about this after every single fucking match. Kyogo doesn't fit Rodgers' system. He didn't fit it last week. He didn't fit it the week before. He still doesn't fit it.
He does. Do you agree?
What is Rodgers' system?
No. My point I was trying to make, though, if you'd actually been listening, I know you fell asleep there. That's why I put it to you. Ida, though, fits the profile more in our legacy thoughts of Brendan to fit his system more than Kyogo would, but yet is used far less. So why do you think that is? Because he actually went out and spent 9 million on the guy, and yet it does feel like he's not quite got much faith in a guy I thought would have fitted the system better.
But he did the same. He did the same with Edward as well. Whenever Edward came in for that 9 million fee, he didn't start an awful lot of games in his first season. He played second fiddle for quite a lot of that, and only really became the focal point whenever Dembele moved on. Because if you remember, people were clamoring for those two to be played as a partnership, and that very rarely happened at all. So I just don't think if you were to play Rangers again tomorrow and you had to pick between Kyogo and Ida, I still think you would pick Kyogo just because of what he's because of the moments that he's been able to produce. The only moment of any note for us today was the goal that was disallowed, and it's no coincidence that it was a moment of quality from him. So if that goal stands, you're talking about a moment of absolute quality from Kyogo in a game where he'd done absolutely nothing else.
When it comes to Rodgers, Phil, right? I mean, you're looking at it plain sight. You've convinced that bowl to spend more than they like spending on a player. Now, neither of them started today, but the end goes on, we understand. And I think he's a young guy who, again, held to a way higher standard than other players, other idiots are, right? Ida comes in at the prime age to impact your first team if he's going to be 9 million. 9 million to me isn't a big spend for a Champions League regular team. However, it is in Celtic terms. And he's had to convince the board, let's be real, to get them to shell that out. It shouldn't be that way, but it is. Never in the big game does he go for either. He's still going for a guy who's got such a poor goal return of late. I mean, and the touches, he's not even involved. He's not involved in the game, let alone scoring goals. And yet still it's not either. That, I think, is so on the manager. It's unbelievable that you spend that money on the guy at some point. And I think Manita does well also, just to finish my point. I do feel like he'll shuffle the pack quicker, like than you would if Kyogo has a couple of bad games, you'll still persist. Ida has a bad 30 minutes and it's right back out the team. And just back to Kyogo. I dare say there's no emotional bias there because surely that's Rodgers' guy, but I don't know. I struggle to fathom now, by this point in the season, why Ida never seems to get the big moment matches from the get-go from a manager who at the time broke the transfer record to sign him. Obviously, Engels came after.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same camp. I thought that Ida was coming up here to be the number one striker, but he just seems to get drips and drabs in terms of the game time. And I think he's the type of player that will benefit from a prolonged run in the team, because there has been some good moments this season. But when you're throwing him on in some of the situations like he was throwing on today and some of the other games that he's came on where he's getting 20 minutes here and there, what can you really expect? We now find ourselves in a position where people are clamouring for, we now need a third striker, Russell. We've went from obviously Kyogo and Ida and rotating between them, and I say both players haven't had an amazing return so far this year. You look at numbers, but yeah, we're now in a position where we've gone from that to now everyone's calling out for, we need to get a third striker in. We need a third striker option after spending $9.5 million on Ida in the summer. So that's what we find ourselves at. But it's a good thing that there's a transfer window open right now because, of course, the urban legend goes that Dermot Desmond once upon a time didn't particularly like losing to a First Division Rangers side and decided we're not going to let that happen again. So what does he think about today's performance? Is Brendan Rodgers going to be obviously going in there and stating his case of what he needs in terms of after that today? Because, there's clearly some refreshments needed in that team in a lot of positions. But, yeah, we now find ourselves in a position where the striker is one of them. After spending $9.5 million, are the board going to want to go out and spend significant cash on that position? Are they going to say to Brendan, you've got your man, $9.5 million, we pursued him for how long during the summer? Pretty much the entire, it went almost right to the last week, wasn't it? It was like middle of August we finally got him over the line. So it's mad to put
Both
that much time, invest.
Both the big friends. Yeah.
And invest that much time over the summer to getting this guy to only becoming a sort of, I guess, a game here and there. But he's a guy for me that I think would benefit from a running team because the amount of times he's coming on, he doesn't look that fit. Looks like he can't trap a bag of cement at times. But I think if you give him and stick with him, but it almost feels like Brendan is afraid to commit to him for too long in the team, which is a bit worrying because, again, you're the manager and we spent weeks chasing this guy in the summer. So surely he's your guy. He's the guy that you wanted. So that's where we're at now with him.
Couldn't agree more, Phil. I think that's the bit that surprises you. The slabbering cabbage comes in. He's a Bhoycie Bus member. It's good to have you on.
Great
he
name.
Says Bhoycie needs his mullet back with his blonde highlights back because I'm less stressed. Trust me, mate. I think I was more stressed cutting a bit like Bonnie Tyler. But anyway, he says, we've left the hellhole virtually unscathed. The January transfers are upon us. We'll blow the season away. I don't think anyone doubts that. But my big worry on New Year's Eve special with Pam, Liam, and Johnny, I said if we get beat something like 3-0, expect a reaction to it that will suddenly remove the dead rubber aspect to the game which we thought we were going into. I think that's been removed. I think like that dead rubber aspect, Terry, is it does become bullshit. Do you know what I mean? Once you're on the wrong end of, and today was a doing, by the way, a doing. At no point was Celtic getting a goal. At no point was Celtic getting into the game. That was 3-0 going on. If it had been us winning it, we'd have said that should have been 5 or 6. Does that prove the point, Terry? At zero time in your life, we'll go into Ibrox, be dead rubbers, no consequence, no jeopardy.
Well, you just have to think back to the game that finished the same score at the Postacoglu's defeat, where we went there and the league was already won, and we put in a very similar performance to the one that we did today. And we come on the post-match and there was a sort of split in the camp in that some people wanted to look at the bigger picture and some people wanted to focus on the abject performance that we just watched. And that's what's happening today. So bigger picture, I think we'd all be in the same camp that this result, possibly in the long term, this result helps Celtic because it'll keep Phil in a job probably till the summer.
Phil's always got a job here.
I mean the other Phil. it'll heighten the anticipation. I mean, before we get into tomorrow morning, the league will be back on again. There'll be a trophy handed out for the most shots in the second half, and you'll have idiots believing again that they're world beaters. So I think bigger picture, nothing's changed. These results come along every now and again. These performances appear every now and again. They're very, very hard to explain when they do. Whenever you're used to watching Celtic win these games, to watching this manager whose record is now 18. Is it 19 from 21?
No, it's 21 games.
19 unbeaten in 21. So he's lost 2 games in 21 against Rangers. So bigger picture, I don't think anything's really changed. I think what today does, it just brings a little bit of focus back in again. It comes at a reasonable time in that it's January, the window's open. It's a bit of a wake-up call. Every dog has its day. It wouldn't surprise me at all if this Rangers team go and lose points now at the weekend because they're not able to produce.
I agree.
They've produced an excellent performance today, and I give them their dues. I give them their credit for that. But they won't be able to keep producing that performance week in, week out, and wouldn't surprise me one bit if the points difference is restored again come Sunday afternoon, and then you've got people calling for the manager's head and everything. So look, we're here to talk about today's game, and it's really disappointing. And there's so many questions that I don't think us three will be able to answer them because I just cannot work out how every single player was so poor. See if somebody came out this morning or tomorrow morning, and there was a picture in the Daily Record and the whole squad were out on New Year's Eve and all day New Year's Day on the lash, I would go, right, that explains it. Because that's what it was like. It was just like a team of guys who had been on the lash for 2 days, then trying to play a game of football. But longer term, no problem at all. Once I wake up tomorrow, it's forgotten about. I start to think about Sunday's game. I look for a reaction. I think there needs to be a reaction from the manager and from the players. We've got important games coming up at the end of January that we can't afford to throw in. We can't afford to throw in one like we did today in the Champions League because we'll come out with a similar result that we did today. So we've got to pick ourselves up, but history dictates that this will be a blip on an upward trajectory that's been going on for the best part of 20 years now. So bigger picture, it's not all doom and gloom, but just so disappointing today and so difficult to try and fathom how not one player looked as if he'd ever played a game of football before.
Yes, and that is the thing. I mean, they've got a lot of credit in the bank, these guys. But one thing I'll also say as well, Phil, when bad results like this happen, start thinking the next big game we've got. Because we have made that game with Young Boys Bern at home a cup final.
Yeah.
Now, the last cup final win, yes, we got there in penalties. But no penalties. And that, if we perform like that against the Swiss side, we're fucked. They'll beat us.
Mm-hmm.
But get the bottom of the table. Trust me. No team is in there not with a wee bit of merit. I mean, ask Greg Taylor. Dynamo Zagreb are after him. Right? If we take this attitude in, or this level of performance in, imagine we were to finish 26th in that fucking Champions League. Don't do it, guys. Let today be the wake-up call for not just manager, but the fucking players as well. Opportunities have been afforded. Patience has been given. Overhype in some cases. No offense, Skills, but in my opinion, you as a ball-playing defender, a ball-playing decision to put him in ahead of Trusty, who I have honestly defended so much. And look at the Champions League games where Trusty plays. I know he got a man of match, Skills, but go Trusty, Bhoycie, he's the better player. But if you look around that park, we've just been given today an example of where you stop fucking falling into your own bullshit, stop falling into your own trap of greatness, and there's still a hell of a lot of work to be done for this to be a Celtic side that even has the audacity to measure up against ones that are proper achieved or close to have achieved, like your Martin O'Neill's teams, your Strachan's last 16 Champions League sides. They've done fuck all yet, mate. They need to get there. And I think today should be a marker that we learn our lesson, we move on, but we improve from it and we learn from it.
Well, yeah, you're right on the cup final aspect now of the Young Boys game. It is win or bust, and people in the chat will need to correct me on this one because I've heard conflicting stories about this January window. Apparently, we are allowed to register 2 wildcard players for the 2 games at the end of January that we signed during this month. I've seen that. I thought it was a case of the players couldn't be registered, but I've seen people in our live chat in recent shows saying that no, you can actually register them. Because if that's the case, then we need to, if we've got a chance to improve a couple of positions before that game, then we have to take the opportunity. Don't wait till the last minute in January to get some deals in. If we've got an opportunity now, that I hate the term wake-up call. I hate it, right? I heard it so many times during the COVID season after every bad result. It was like, that'll be a wake-up call. Honestly, it's giving me PTSD, but I'm going to go against my own intuition here and use it. Today should be a wake-up call where we've got a massive, massive game coming up against Young Boys. Champions League. You've said it enough times on here, Russell, domestic bliss is one thing, but we want to try and do something next in Europe, and this is our chance to get into the knockout stages and hopefully right some wrongs of the last 20 or so years. We've still haven't won a knockout game in a long time, so we've got a huge opportunity here, a team with no points. But you're right, they will come to Celtic Park thinking, we don't want to finish on no points. Even if they win one game, it means at least they've won something. So they're going to come to Celtic Park with nothing to lose, a dangerous team in that aspect. They're going to be like, we'll just go for it. And if we get caught cold that night, then I don't want us to be going to Villa Park needing something. And where we've put ourselves in such a good position with the results that we've had to mess that up now. But I'm still pretty hopeful that we will be okay and we'll get over the line. But yeah, with that game though, that'll be the next big one. If we've got the opportunity to register a couple of players before then to use in these Champions League games, then I think we need to get it done pronto.
Couldn't agree more. I think this is the thing. When it's a dead rubber in the sense of the League Championship, Terry. We called it weeks ago. That's no problem. But let it be a measuring stick then. If nothing else, that you're not quite who you think you are. To the manager, certain decisions you make, you will not get away with. When the going gets tough, but Celtic, and I include Brendan in this, who have backed so much, you've made the cup final with Young Boys Bern in Swiss, the Swiss champion, like us runners-up, whatever the fuck they are. You've made that a cup final to make the next stage. End of. Because trust me, in Celtic, if we have the points we do right now, We'll be the ones who are record points do not qualify for the next decade to finish 20. That's us. You get the job done. You've made the cup final now. I see the last 2 cup finals, if you like, against your rivals. One, we got through penalties. We've conceded 6 goals in them both, as you rightfully say, Terry. We've not been at it. I think that Swiss side, they capitalised on that. They beat us at home. Start learning from these mistakes. It's not all doom and gloom. It's not all doom and gloom. It's okay to have these adverse moments. We've got to build from it again. I do trust the manager will.
Yeah, and so do I, Bhoycie. I think we'll be straight back on the horse again on Sunday. I think that Champions League game again. Whether you think we could have pushed and got the 3 points in Croatia, we didn't. We've got that home game against them. I think we'll be totally fine. Now, if we play exactly like we did today, we won't. If we play like that against any team in the Champions League, we'll get our ass handed to us. But again, we won't play like that. I'll be interested to see though the next 2 times that we play Rangers, because they'll probably come quite close to each other. I think we play them again in March, and then once the split happens in April, it tends to be quite early in the split. So we'll have 2 games in quite close proximity to each other, with maybe even the potential of a Scottish Cup tie as well. So it'll be interesting when those games come round, because if you look at the Cup final and you look at that game today, and you can see the progress that Rangers have made and the tactical decisions that they've made. And I've seen somebody put up a post there around nullifying McGregor, and Rangers were able to do that, and that's where the success has been built from. But then that then gets turned to Celtic. So if you know that someone's going to try and nullify McGregor, either McGregor has to find a way to overcome that, or the manager has to tactically take that into account when he's setting his team up and find a way to overcome that. So whenever the next 2 games come around, it'll be interesting to see, have we done anything to counteract the tactical changes that Rangers have made, which appear on face value to have improved their chances whenever they play against us on the last 2 games. And I heard Clement in his post match. I was listening to see if Brendan come on, and they moved to Dundee and Dundee United quite quickly. But Clement he was starting to spout about how they got the result today that they should have got in the cup final, and that's not correct. They got what they deserved in the cup final. They got beat on a penalty shootout that they played for. So the Rangers weren't better than Celtic in that cup final. They were better than Rangers have been in recent games against Celtic, but they weren't the better side. And I think that's kind of got a wee bit lost in another 3-3 victory. Today they were the better side. Today they built upon that draw in the cup final, and we didn't. And we need to now counter what their manager has done to make sure that when we play them again, that we come out on top.
I love this with Brown Warrior. Terry, go bring that back up, Phil, if that's all right. I've been Brendan's biggest critic for the best part of it, and Brown Warrior, a loyal viewer of the bus. He disappeared for a bit, but I know the guy. He's sound as anything. I don't know him, but like, you know, I feel like you know him. And he was so against Brendan. And it's now, you look at the flip, he's so right. This is called a balanced view. You know, after this season in Europe, he's won me over, which is always, I think, the benchmark. He can have the odd wobble after going a full year. When was it quite unbeaten? Calm down, boys. I went, I'm calm.
I think we're relatively calm, weren't we?
I'm the calmest man on the bus every time.
We're just differentiating.
Phil, that's not a badge of honour, Phil. It's not difficult to be the calmest man on the bus.
We're just differentiating between what we watched today and the bigger picture. And these results happen, and they'll happen to better teams than Celtic this season. It doesn't matter who you are and how good you are and how many times you win. Every team loses games. Every team throws in subpar performance at some stage, and today it was us, and our poorest performance in a long time coincided with as good a performance as I've seen from Rangers in a long time, and that cocktail ends up in us getting our ass handed to us.
Here's one just to draw a comparison to that, Terry and Russell. You'll know the answer to this one. One of your favourite eras, Martin O'Neill's time as Celtic manager. His first season. What was his first domestic defeat that season? Do you remember what it was?
No.
We lost 5-1 to Rangers in November. Remember that? Remember we beat them 6-2?
That's right.
See at the end of the season, on top of what Terry's saying, I see if we win the treble, like back in 2001, when we won that treble, was anybody thinking, that 5-1 defeat at Ibrox? So nobody cares, as we say. So if this season ends the way that it potentially could, was winning another treble, so it's still on the table and it still has to be won, but it's there. Will anybody really look back on this and go, but what about that time we lost to Ibrox at New Year? It'll be a distant memory.
I think
Brendan, I don't think Brendan. Well, the thing is, he's got a chance to right that wrong in a few weeks in March when we play them. And I've said that to my dad. I went, he's the type of manager that won't forget these things. And I think, he will drum that into the players in the run up to that game. He'll say all the right things to the media weeks out, say we're not thinking of that game, one game at a time. But he'll be thinking about it. He definitely will.
Raging. I think he'll be raging. I think, remember when you spoke, Phil, about the League Cup thing? And you went, I know it's about Celtic get the treble back up, but Brendan's raging he didn't win that last year. That's like two defeats at Ibrox. They'll win them the last one this season. I guarantee you we beat them in the last of the season. As for the league, they're an amazing side, Terry, when there's zero pressure on them. See, once all the dancing's been done, see when it's neck and neck, they're fucking neighbour. See, when it comes to choosing a partner, they're the ones who pick their girl last. Or the boy last. That's what they do. They are nowhere near. They're a nervy bunch. You wait and wait till the pressure's off. And when the pressure's off, they come out fighting. Celtic, to be fair, we've criticised enough, I think. But you look at that, and I guarantee you, if that was two teams, level on points or level-ish, a title race going on, they don't play like that. They don't. And this is an evidence-based point I'm making here. Not bullshit, not trying to get one over them. I'm okay with it from a Celtic point of view, no. Do I really believe this is the real metal of Rangers? Do I really think the side that I've seen today, that's how they then hang the rest of the season and they want to go out? No, I don't. I think they're all fakers, posers, and I think the manager's a fraud. But today, wind up the team better, use the blueprint set by Bruges, did it twice in the space of 2 weeks, and we have a lot to think about. But will the trophies come home? Oh, come on. I mean, it's embarrassing to think that they wouldn't. Guys, I'm going to thank you. That's just over there, Mark. Terry, you wearing a hoodie, just weird. Like, this type of jacket I would wear. I feel like I've given you that or something. Did I send you that for Christmas?
No, you didn't. I stole it whenever I was over in your apartment.
And Phil, I thought me and Terry might need a mediator. I didn't think it'd be because he's so sober. But yes, I'm still glad anyway. I can't thank you guys enough. 362 live in the chat. Let's hope so.
That should have been
the formation. See you there.